entrepreneurs, musicians, artists. A city of laughter, memories, and people who will welcome others in with a cup of heartwarming handmade coffee. A city of people, young and old, working together. People who explore, live, and grow together. But what makes this place special? Being listed year after year as one of the best places to raise a family. Maybe because we have a community recognized for its safe neighborhoods and revered for its low unemployment. A city where adventure is everywhere you look, where you can pioneer your own story. We've opened a new page to write on for the generations ahead. Welcome to Bismarck. Come write your story.
Good morning. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. How are you doing today? Every time I see that video, I just want to move there. Done. Thanks for all being here this morning. Actually, I think before we get started, we've got a t-shirt earner here on the Mug Club. So, Mike, why don't you come up and grab your t-shirt? Oh, look at that. He's sprinting.
Wasn't that the deal? I was supposed to sprint.
You were, yes. He stretched ahead of time and everything. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Photo up. Cool. Well, thank you for participating, and thank you guys for all being here today, and our virtual crowd, too. We've been getting quite a few every week watching this on Facebook Live as well. So welcome to you all. I'm Evan Anderson with Gizmonics, and I get to be your MC today. You're actually getting second string today. Janya was going to MC this because she knows Maggie quite well, and unfortunately, Janya's virtually training some people in New York today. So you get me. Sorry. National Day. I guess Marlo's not here today, but we have National I Love My Feet Day. So I guess love them or hate them, they're yours, right? So, okay, there you go. I do like the photo, though. I thought that was kind of cute. And it is also National Nonprofit Day. So, all right. And we always like to thank our sponsors. These folks help support us in all kinds of different ways and allow us to be here. In fact, today I was looking at, I was looking to see the last time Maggie was on stage here and happened to do a little bit of looking through the spreadsheets. And this is our 9th year of 1 Million Cups in Bismarck. We are the oldest 1 Million Cups chapter in the state. And we've had 338 speakers. Well, 337. Maggie will be 338. So pretty cool. How about a round of applause for what we've been able to do for a long time. And these folks, like I said, help us in a number of ways to keep it going. All right. Anybody new? Anybody never been here before? Okay, love to see it. Thank you for being here. So what are we? We are a free weekly program. We put an entrepreneur up on stage or a community builder, talk about what it is they're doing. In the case of an entrepreneur, we like to hear their story. We like to hear their ups and their downs and where they're going and where they've been. It gives us then an opportunity as an audience to ask some hard questions maybe, share some contacts with them, and do what we can to really support them. And the big takeaway, what it is we're really doing here is we're trying to change the face of our startup community over 1 million cups of coffee, hot or iced. At the end, and I always like to ask you, as you know, start thinking about your questions as Maggie is speaking so that when they come up and for the Q&A, you've got some good questions in the hopper. That's where a lot of the magic happens here is all the questions and the interaction and sharing some ideas. So be thinking about those, please. If you're watching us on Facebook, hopefully we've got somebody that can maybe keep an eye on that for us down here. Okay. So you can put your question in the comments there and we'll ask that for you as well. Any community announcements today? I didn't have any slides. Anybody have anything going on that you'd like to talk about? Yes, Joel.
Good morning, 1 Million Cups. How are we doing? All right, cool.
Well, my name is Joel, and how many of you know Brick Oven Bakery? Oh, wow, what a great response. So, as you know, there's a lot of road construction happening over there, but in order to bolster some support for that business, I'll be playing saxophone there this Saturday morning, little live music. So if you are around in town, you want to go grab a pastry and listen to some jazz, I'll be providing that Saturday morning, 9 to 10:30. Hope to see you there.
Thanks, Joel. Joel, it's about time to get you back on the stage here, too, for a random act of art. I think we'll do that. He's been on stage here before and done a phenomenal job. So any others? Yes. All right, Nicole.
So after you go hear jazz at Brick Oven Bakery, you should also go to Biz Market. If you would like to volunteer for Biz Market, we are giving our volunteers fun coupons to spend at the market. So that's another fun thing you can do this Saturday. And then after all your Saturday morning fun, if you need some Saturday afternoon fun, you should head over to Mandan to Dialectic Brewing. There is a art market happening there. Smallish art market because Dialectic is small but mighty. It'll be really fun. So.
Thanks, Nicole. All right, is that it? Normally, Janya talks a little bit about Yonder. I don't know, did anybody go? I know some people did actually, went and did the, it's all tied to the sesquicentennial. There, I said it. And it was at the governor's mansion, former governor's mansion. And I know I saw a few of you there. And the folks that organized it said that they had some people come through that said they heard about it from us here. So that was kind of cool to close that loop. So anyway, that's just a little treasure hunt thing they do. I think the next one might be out at United Tribes during the powwow, I think. And it's just a cool, developed here. I think it started out of Mabu, and it's basically, it's not an app, it's actually driven from a website, so you don't even have to download an app, but it's kind of a treasure hunt thing and fabulous prizes and all of that. So we'll be telling you more about that when we get a little bit closer to the next one. So if there are no other ones, I think it is time to bring Maggie up on stage. Please give her a round of applause.
Hi there. Thanks for having me again. And make sure I can get this. Okay. I want to thank Janya. My slides were kind of messed up, and she went the extra mile to make sure that they were the way that I wanted them. So here today to talk about the Innovation School. We are starting our 6th school year. Some people still have never heard of us, or else they've heard good things, which I guess is a good thing, but we want more people to hear about us and to come and see what we do, or send their kids, or participate in some way. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I did put on here modern education, because I do think that that's the way that we're moving. I know it in my heart, but it's kind of slow going for everyone else that's kind of still stuck in that traditional mindset of that's what school needs to look like. And so I like the idea of modern education, because that is what it is. So this is me and my sons. Wyatt is on the right. He's 14 now, and Sawyer is just turned 12. I put them on here because this is kind of my inspiration for the school. Not kind of, it is. And I have on there, inquiry is where it all starts. So we are an inquiry-based school, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a couple slides. But for me, it all started with just asking questions about, like, is this what school has to be? My son, my oldest, Wyatt, he would come home and be frustrated with school. He was in kindergarten, 1st grade, and he would ask, like, why do I have to do that again? I've already shown them that I already know how to do that. Why do I have to do it again? At first, my answer was, well, because they asked you to, just do it. But the more he asked me questions about why does it have to be like that, or what if we could do this, it really made me start thinking of, like, well, maybe he's right. Why don't I ask these questions myself? And so I think we lose curiosity as we age. You think about, like, a small child and how many questions they ask you every single day. And that kind of starts to go away. And, like, entrepreneurs, they're constantly asking questions. They're constantly thinking of, how can I do this better? What ways are not working in my business? How can I make this more profitable? Whatever questions they're asking, they're always asking questions. And so he asked that question originally, and one of the things was like, why do I have to be the same as everyone else? And so it really made me start inquiring, and I started researching other schools in other states. I started researching other like models of education, different techniques, different ways of delivering instruction. I went on some field trips even myself to see other schools and to learn from other people. And that's kind of when the Innovation School was born. So we are getting ready to start our 6th school year. And at first, you create a mission statement if you've created a business. And I have a board, so we are a nonprofit, a 501c3. And my board, I pretty much had done all of the legwork before our first meeting. But our mission statement we needed to craft together. And I'm really glad that we took the time to do that because we continue to go back to this. So I have a teacher who's been with me from the very beginning. She started with me our first year. And if we're ever like questioning like what should we do or what should our decision be, she always reminds me, well, go back to our mission statement. What does it say? How can we connect with that? And so our mission statement involves each child is an individual, and we believe that children are creative beings. We respect the needs of children. We want to foster a caring and creative environment, and we really want to emphasize not just their intellectual development, but also their emotional, social, and physical development. And then we want to create an environment in which each kid can discover their strengths and passions so that they can explore their unique contributions to the world. So helping kids learn what they're strong at and getting a chance to try something and maybe fail at it, learn from it, and do better next time is really, we continue to go back to this as guiding our everyday actions. About our school, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some of the things, and then I actually have the rest of our slides are based on our values, so you'll be able to learn a little bit about each of our values. But lots of people are curious about what does it mean to have a non-traditional school. I would say if you're really curious, come and see us and spend the day with us because it's really fun. But we do a lot of hands-on learning, so you're not going to see kids just sitting in desks filling out worksheets. They're actively participating in their learning. They're doing lots of discussions. We have a lot of dialogue and a lot of discussion. We do a lot of hands-on kind of like experiments. We do a lot of projects. So I do have on there too that we're project and inquiry-based. So you might have heard of project-based learning, which is something that we do, but we also talk a lot about inquiry, of like inquiring into certain topics and just asking questions and then seeing where those questions lead us into developing projects. We are student-driven. So what that means, some people think, the kids just do whatever they want all day, and that's not what it is. But the students do help us drive their learning and our actions during the day as far as our staff. So one of the things that I think is awesome about the flexibility within our school is that we have a very rigid kind of schedule that the kids get used to, like, oh, it's reading time now, or it's inquiry time now. But the flexibility is really in it for the teachers to be able to take a student's question or a class's interest and bring it in the next day instead of having to follow a strict pacing guide that sorry, we can't answer that question because we got to cover this next content. The students are still learning very similar content that they would learn in a traditional school. They're just learning it in a more engaging way that their questions are driving. We do a lot of what I think is leadership development. Our students, if you were to meet them, which I wish I could have had some of them be here today, but summertime is hard. But they will sit there and talk with you. They will ask you questions. They aren't. They're not afraid, or they don't think of themselves as just kids. They think of themselves as people who have valuable opinions and are willing to share them with you. So I feel like a lot of what we do, not necessarily intentionally, but is actually really developing future leaders. And then I wrote down reflection focus. So we do a lot of reflecting on what did we just do? What did we learn from that? And then what can we do better next time? So we spend a lot of focus and time on reflecting, because that's where, for us, the learning really does happen. So our values are projects, passion, peers, and play. There are the 4 Ps. I did not make them up. A very smart man who works at MIT wrote a book called Lifetime Kindergarten. He started a program, or he was part of a program called Scratch, which if your kids are into coding, they might have used Scratch before. Anyway, his name is Michael Resnick. I think it's Mikhail Resnick, actually. But anyway, he has this awesome theory about learning of projects, passion, peers, and play. And when I learned about it, I was like, those sound like the Innovation School's values. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of our projects. So our projects are student-led, but they are, I should say, some of them are based on our inquiry topics, which we have 6 of each year. We have a block of we just call them our inquiry blocks, but it's where we really focus on our social studies and science standards and some of our literature standards. And it's just a topic and a set of time. So the teacher is able to really ask the kids a lot of questions. They can ask questions based on that topic and then develop a project together over that 6 weeks. And so some of the examples of our projects, we had a school play. This is the stars of our school play that we had last May. That's Ella, she's gonna be a 6th grader, and Henry, he's gonna be a 3rd grader. The play was called what was it called again? Yes, the Comical Adventures of a Boy and His Dog. And it was actually written by one of our returning 8th graders. She wrote the play, and then she helped direct the play. And this was just an extracurricular, so this wasn't something that she did during school, although she did work on some of the play during school, but we worked on all of this after school. So that was definitely a student-led project. And then I helped facilitate, I helped out with drama this year, but I helped facilitate with her so that she could really direct the play and kind of produce it. So we also have something we call, I just have kind of a list there so I can give you a feel for what it is our days look like. We have something called student workshops. And so each week the students lead a workshop. Each class gets it's our class's turn this week, and the kids get to lead a workshop in whatever they want. So they might be teaching you how to play Pokemon, or they might be teaching you how to draw something, or they might be teaching you a game in the gym. And so they get an opportunity to create the workshop and then lead the workshop. We kind of do it in sessions, so they get 20 minutes with 3 different groups, so we spend an hour a week, and then they get a chance to really create and then lead one of those workshops. And the kids really, really enjoy that. And we do too. It's really fun to see what they come up with. And even down to our 1st graders, they lead workshops as well. So Friday meeting is not necessarily a project, but it is definitely a student-led. So every Friday we have a meeting, and anyone can go write anything on the agenda that they would like to discuss as a school. And it can be anything as maybe somebody wants to organize or have a committee for Kindness Month, and they want to see who's interested in helping them with that. All the way to they don't think we should carry sticks on the walk anymore. They think that should be, banned, and we shouldn't have sticks. So it gets to be some things are very, kind of a big deal, and other things to us we kind of sometimes laugh at, but it's very important to them. So we don't laugh in front of them. We always talk about it later. But it's definitely definitely a student-led part of our school year, or part of our school day, and it's been really powerful because the kids learn how to make a motion. They learn how to stand up and rebut someone else's argument, or to defend what it is that they think should happen. And then they learn how to deal with what happens if your idea doesn't come through. If everyone votes it down, then okay, well, I guess I just that's part of living in a community. We have one of our student projects was a Uganda bake sale. We got connected with a school in Uganda. Technology is amazing, and global access is amazing, and so someone had reached out to us. They have a school in Uganda, and our 3rd through 5th graders connected with them. They created a bake sale, and they also, the African students taught our students how to create these beaded lizards. We had beads everywhere for quite a while, so they sold these beaded lizards, and then they had a bake sale, and we actually were able to pay for 1 year of Wi-Fi for that school in Uganda. So that was all a student project. Our vendor show, our middle schoolers, I feel like I could stand up here and talk about this whole thing the whole time, but We are stuck in a lease on our 3rd Street building. If you know where we used to be on 3rd Street in that old Victorian house on the same block as the governor's mansion. We're still stuck in a lease, so if you know of anyone who needs a building, please reach out to me. But our middle schoolers wanted to find a way for us to like generate excitement about that building, get people in there so they could see if maybe it's a business or a business space that they would want to lease. And so they created a vendor show, like a flea market, and they created the flyers. They delivered the flyers to downtown businesses. If any of you are in the downtown area, maybe you received one of these flyers because they were kind of going door to door. This was their idea to generate some additional income for our school, as well as like show off the space so that we could get people in there to see what that space was. We do drones. That's the reason I put that on here is because we do some STEMAC type activities, but the students got trained in the drones and then they taught it to the other students. So I think some of that piece is really exciting when our students get to do that. Capstones, so we started this 2 years ago where our kids that are moving into middle school, so our 5th graders create a capstone project and they stand up in front of their peers and a panel and they present why they feel like they're ready to transition into middle school. And then this year we also did it for our 8th graders. They got up in front kind of like this, so we got them mic'd up and they had a presentation in our gym and they were able to share why they would think that they're ready for high school and ways that our school has impacted them. So those were our capstones that we've come up with the past couple of years. Our Grello Market is a combination of our green and yellow class. One of our students made that up. Actually, Henry did. The Grello Market was an opportunity for them to create products and sell products. So they sold them to their families and to friends, but they were able to create like a little marketplace. And so they did that. We've actually done that 2 years now. And then we have a beginning of the year and end of year project that are based completely on each student. So the U Fair is a presentation and a project that they make about themselves, what makes them unique. And it's kind of set up, it almost looks like a science fair sort of feel where you would get a chance to go around and learn about each student and they share their project with you. And then the same at the end of the year, we have what we call an ARC Expo, where we arc back over our year to look at all the things that we've done, and then they share reflections on their learning. And so those two presentations and projects, we often invite community members into see. And then our middle school, they do panel presentations. I think last year they did 4. I think, is that Ben there? Ben Brick, hey, he was one of our panelists one time. So we would love to have you guys join us for some of those kinds of things if that's something that you might be interested in. So the next value that we have is passion. And so I put Davis on here. This is an old picture when we were in our 3rd Street building, but I kind of like it just because he's like listening. He's listening to a book. So our students do reading, writing, math. They do all the traditional kinds of subject area. They just do it a little bit differently. And I feel like I can talk about it now because Davis is talking about it, but Davis is dyslexic, and he has been receiving tutoring at Inspiring Minds for, I think, just a year. But Davis is very passionate about building, engineering, tinkering with things. This year, he actually, we had a guest come in his class, and they ended up kind of talking, and this guy actually brought Davis his lawnmower. Davis took it apart, he cleaned it, he didn't see anything wrong with it, reassembled it, put it back together, and gave it back to this guy, and it was working. So the guy was very impressed. It worked on the first pull. It had never done that before. That's Davis's passion, and at our school, he really is given an opportunity to explore that. And whether he's creating a project, he often, if you come and were to see his U-Fair project or his ARC Expo, it often is mechanical and it's spinning around and doing all kinds of things. And so I kind of like that he's the one on this slide because he's very passionate about that. And during his capstone, because he's moving into middle school, he shared about his dyslexia and how that's a challenge for him, but how he's working through it. And I think in our school, he feels very safe to be able to be vulnerable and to talk about that. In fact, all of us were like crying because to him, it's nothing. It's just part of who he is, and it's one of his obstacles that he has in his life, but he has all these other things that he's also very strong at. So that's where I think a strength-based view really helps that confidence and that self-esteem in everybody, but to be able to see it that way is pretty cool. So some of the other I have down here too, again, we have reading, writing, math time. We have similar times that you would see in a traditional school. It just might look a little bit different, although our students love to read, and if you mess with their reading time, you kind of get in trouble. But they will definitely let you know, hey, this is my reading time. Please let me be. So they don't like if we take that away. So there's a lot of passion there. I think a lot of our students grow to love to read. I put literature and book clubs because we also do that for reading at our upper level readers. They really take time to discuss books and to reflect on books and get a chance to read different books in different genres. And this year, I'm very excited. We're starting something called Learning Adventures. You might have seen it on our social media, but we are going to be opening it up to homeschool families. And I actually had somebody say, well, I think I would, as an adult, I would like that class. So I thought, oh, maybe we could open it up to adults too if they could make the time work. But we're going to be doing these learning adventures that are based on, first of all, it's going to be based on a teacher passions because we're just starting it out this year. But as we go along, we really want it to be based also on student excitement and passion so they can help us develop some of these learning adventures. But our first sessions are going to be hiking, golf shenanigans, Megan is leading. Alicia and I are doing virtual travel, and then we have journaling joy, self-awareness, and pine needle baskets. They're going to be creating pine needle baskets. So those are some of our learning adventures, just helping kids try different things to explore and discover what their passions might be. Our next value is peers, and I also wrote connection because I feel like when you're in a mixed age environment or multi-age environment, you really get a chance to see how kids and people connect, whether or not they're the same age or not. And so we are pre-K through 8th grade. So we have 4 classes. We have pre-K kindergarten, we have 1st and 2nd, we have 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then we have middle school. And so kids are not just with their same age counterparts, and we really believe that peers look different. They're not. School is the only place that puts us into a place where you have to be with people your exact same age. I mean, look at where you work. You have people that you're not all the same age sitting there working, thank goodness, because we can learn from people who are older than us and we can get energy from people who are younger than us. And so we really embrace that idea, and you can learn and you can research all the cool things about benefits of multi-age environments, but when you actually get a chance to witness it, it's just phenomenal to get to see older kids interacting with younger kids, and it's very special. But I put down, excuse me, we spend a lot of time doing community building, so we have a morning meeting every day that's just a half an hour, and we work on, sometimes we do specific activities, but a lot of times it's just community building. It's just connection time for our students and their teachers to maybe just talk about the weekend or to discuss what the week's going to look like. So we do spend some time on community building. They get a ton of communication practice with their peers and then with adults. And there's just a lot of dialogue during an inquiry session. We do a lot of talking back and forth. We also help them during that time of oh, it's not your turn, you just interrupted, trying to help facilitate that so they can become aware of how they connect with their peers. But there's just they get a lot of opportunities to practice communicating. Conflict, we have a lot of conflict resolution practice as well. It kind of has organically come out of some processes that we've made. I'm the kind of person, I don't actually like processes. That's not a word, or procedures and processes aren't really things that I like to talk about, but we've really created some that are really amazing for our students. So we have something called the Judiciary Committee, and the students, every day at lunchtime, they get together and they're a committee, and they handle any complaints that might have come about during that day. And so if so-and-so pushed me on the slide at recess, and I didn't like it, I can go ahead and write a complaint about that, and then the committee talks to one person, talks to the other, might interview some witnesses, and then they decide together whether or not there should be any action needed. And so it can really be anything from something small to something big, and then as leaders, as guides, we come in and help out as needed. But it gives them a lot of chance of communicating with each other and figuring out how to work things out together. We do a lot of group projects, so there are individual projects that the students do, but there's a lot of group work that they do, so then they're kind of forced to learn how to work together as peers. We really encourage respectful dialogue, so there are times where we don't always agree, and we're able to talk about those kinds of things and just respectfully agree to disagree. And so we give the kids an opportunity to do that. And then we create group agreements as well. So each class creates a group agreement, and then we have one as a whole school that we decide on our Friday meeting. All the kids vote it into, like, yep, these are our group agreements for the year. And then we read that and we kind of revisit that each week. So we remember, like, oh, yep, we agree to be kind, caring, and respectful. Or we agree to trust the adults in our school. Whatever the agreements might be that they come up with for that year. It just helps us work on getting along. And then our last value, play. I wrote down hard fun because I think sometimes we think of play as just like frivolous, but it's really not. Think about if you play the stock market, or you play a slot machine, or you play, play can be a lot of different things. And so I like to think of it as like hard fun, like things that we are doing that, yes, it's fun, but it's taking work because I'm staying engaged with it. And so I have just like a couple examples. I already talked about the bake sale, the Uganda bake sale, but that's Miss Nancy and Rowan selling cupcakes, and Rowan's practicing her math skills of counting change. The Fabergé eggs here, this was a project that our middle schoolers did with the senior center in town. It actually was really cool. They wrote back and forth, they journaled back and forth and wrote letters to each other all school year. And then this was their culminating event in April. They got together, they created these Fabergé eggs that the senior center led them on learning. And they got to work with the person that they had been corresponding with all year, and just got a chance to meet with different people. And then we had, the other one is the kindness party. They're getting ready to go into the gym. We had celebrated, we were practicing being kind, and we had been like watching for other people being kind and keeping track of it. And it was just kind of a fun little party that we got to have once we were noticing kindness. We realized that if we notice positivity and we're grateful for things, that it feels a lot better than if we're looking for things that aren't so good. So we celebrated in that way. And we do take time to play during the day. So we do take recess time for our students, even our middle schoolers, because we also believe in just their physical health and getting outside and getting some sunshine and fresh air and just moving our bodies. And so we also have that as part of our day as well. So just a little bit about our community. We have, because people always ask me, like, well, what kind of kids like do best in your school? And my heart just wants to say every single kid would do best in our school. But we have all different kinds of kids. So we are pre-K, so we can take students as young as 4. So we have 4-year-olds all the way up to our 8th graders who will be 14, 15 by the end of this school year. And so we are a mixed age environment where kids are in a mixed age classroom. But we have just all different kinds of kids. We have, like I shared, Davis is just recently has discovered that he's dyslexic in the past year and a half or so. So we do have students that have some kinds of like learning type difficulties. Just so you know, dyslexia is very misunderstood. 1 in 5 of us have it. So if you look around the room here, there's probably quite a few of us sitting here that have dyslexia. If you're an entrepreneur, chances are that may be a little bit higher percentage. MIT looks for dyslexics. NASA looks for dyslexics because of how they think differently. And but anyway, so at a non-traditional school, we might have a higher percentage of dyslexic students just because they're looking for something different, and it is genetic. So their parents might have struggled in school, and mom and dad don't want to see that for their own child. So anyway, so we do have some students with some kinds of like mild learning difficulties, but we have students who like their families just want something more creative. Their families want something more cutting edge. And so they send them to our school. We have just like all walks of life in our school. So like we have a big spectrum. It's not just like one particular kind of family that fits in our school. So I would say our community is very diverse in that way. And we're sitting at around 40 students. So pre-K through 8th, we're right around 40. We'd like to grow it to be about 12 students in a class. And then our pre-K class, we would love to get that hire an additional teacher and maybe be able to offer 2 pre-K classes. So that's just a little bit about our community. And then this last slide, I just wanted to share like the get involved piece. So there's lots of ways you can find us. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also just go to our website or email me or give us a call. We did move locations, so now we are sharing space with Bismarck Community Church. And they're on kind of by the Tatley Meadow ball fields down on Michigan Avenue, right off of 19th there. And it's a huge space. Like we have all this space. We have a gym, we have a kitchen, we have a big lunchroom. It's very exciting that we have more room, but we are still stuck in that lease on 3rd Street, so we're trying to get the word out there so we can hopefully get out of that, because it would just be better for us financially if we could just be in our current space. We're starting our 3rd year in that space, so it's been really, really good for us. We tried to do 2 locations for a while, but that was just a little bit too tricky. But ways that you can get involved, we're always looking for people who have expertise, so if we have our different inquiry blocks throughout the school year, we often are learning about how the world works. So learning about different science type things. We're learning about how we organize ourselves, so thinking of like government and city government, or how we create markets, free markets and those kinds of things. So ways you could get involved would be to reach out to us and become kind of like a partner, an expertise partner would be amazing. We also have like I had mentioned, our middle schoolers do panels. We're always looking for panelists who are interested in helping students give students feedback, or just kind of get a chance to see our students. We'd also love if you're interested to get on our newsletter, and then we could share out like some of those those projects where the kids are sharing out their projects. We'd love to have people come to our U Fair and our ARC Expo and other things throughout the year. And then this year we're starting a 5-year pledge program, where we're trying to find people who are, I believe in this mission. I think this is an awesome opportunity and option in our community, and I want to support it in some way. And so we're looking for people that would be willing to donate a 5-year, just make a pledge for 5 years. Yep, we want to see this continue. We want to see this continue to grow, and help us out in that way as well. And then this is my last slide. This screen is quite a bit bigger than I remember. I put a picture of myself in a swimsuit, which is not exactly the way most people would end a presentation, but I really love this picture. That's my youngest there in the front in the orange shorts. This was a huge tree at a lake in Minnesota that we went to with some friends, and I didn't think that he would, but the other kids were jumping off, and he was like, he actually is pretty adventurous. He rolled over at 2 months. He walked at 9 months. He crawled out of the crib at 16 months. He's always been a mover. In fact, Megan's his teacher, and every project he wanted to do was an active one. So I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. But he was nervous about jumping off this tree. And after he did it a few times, he convinced me to do it. And the reason I put this on here is because I think there's a lot that we can learn from our kids if we're willing to. Whether you have children or not, we can still learn from young people. And they do have a lot of energy to give, and they do have a lot of good ideas to share, which is something that's valued within our space. And the one thing our board member, she's actually our treasurer, Beth Demke, who is leading the amazing Gateway to Science project that's being built, she and I were talking a couple months ago, and she said, Maggie, sending your child to the innovation school is a bold choice. It takes courage, it takes bravery to do that. And so I wanted to put this on there because sometimes we do need to be brave for our kids. We need to say, this is something different. And I do want to give it a shot. I want to jump all in. I don't want to put my toes in, or I don't want to just sit on the side and not put my swimming suit on and just watch them having fun. I want to jump all into this and really trust that all will be well, and that it'll actually be really fun and amazing in the process. So thank you, and I'm going to have some teachers come up for our Q&A. So I introduce them. I think my mic went. Oh, there it is. So I have Megan Sharp. Megan is a former assistant principal at one of our local middle schools, and she has joined us for our middle school program now. And then this is Alicia Jeromchek. She is just starting with us this year, but her daughter has been attending our school for a couple years. And Alicia is a speech path and also a licensed teacher. So we're excited that you guys have us. I'll go to the end here so you guys can sit there.
All right. All right, there. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for everything, Adam. I always forget to thank Adam up there. He's up there just making all the tech work every week. Thank you. Dakota Stage has so much more tech up there than they used to, thanks to 1 Million Cups and thanks to Adam. So I always like to thank him. So I hope you guys all were thinking of your questions. I know I have all kinds of questions. Zhanya had an opportunity to teach some statistics at the Innovation School just last year. I think 6 sessions, if I recall, and I was fortunate enough to get in on a couple of those sessions, and the inquiry thing is real. That's one thing that I think really surprised us both, is just how inquisitive and how the questions we got and how comfortable the students seemed, interacting with us as adults, and good questions too. So it's very real. All right, question in the back.
To take you up on the offer to hang out with you for a day if it was, and I'll contact you independently. My son's best friend is starting with you this year, so I'm looking forward to see, because seeing him struggle over the years has been a challenge. So really hoping and praying that to see good results. So it'll be like an infomercial for you all too.
Great.
I just wanted to say that. I gotta go. So.
Thank you.
I guess you were on stage last in, I looked it up, September of 18.
Okay.
And I guess I'm just kind of curious maybe what has gone as planned since September of 2018, and maybe what hasn't gone as planned for the Innovation School.
Well, I think that when I came, actually, I brought my son Wyatt and another student, and they actually came up here for Q&A, which was really cool. But I think some of the things that have gone well is we expanded down into pre-K and up into middle school. We were able to snag Megan. We got her kids first, and then she came along afterwards. So being able to offer this to a wider variety of aged students has been really a blessing. I think our move to our new location has been huge. Our 3rd Street location has about 3,000 square feet. So it's not like it's super small, but we were just starting to outgrow it when you thought of like 3 classrooms, and then adding a 4th classroom, we just needed bigger space. Plus we have green space and a gym when it's February and freezing out. So I think that's been those are really good things for us. Some things maybe that haven't gone as well, or things we didn't anticipate. I guess for me, one of the things, like not just in 2018, but when I first started, I just really thought that this was like such an amazing thing, and everyone's going to want this for their kids. And I thought for sure we would be full in like the first year or 2, and we're still not full yet. Of course, we have expanded a little bit, but I think that for me has been like, people aren't as willing to give this a shot and trust this. And oftentimes people will quickly dismiss it out of finances, of like, oh, nope, I just can't afford it. We have financial aid available though. So in our families, we have very few families that just easily quick write a check without thinking about it. It's something that families work hard to provide for their students, and we do work with them if they have financial needs. And so I feel like I thought that there would be more that were willing to try it, but as I get into it, when I talked about that courage, that it's hard to just trust and do something different when everyone else is kind of doing the traditional route. So
it's kind of that leap that Beth was talking about, probably.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you've got some years under your belts now, and that might make it a little bit easier. Kind of almost testimonials. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is for real. Those kids turned out great, and it might be a little bit easier for people to take that jump, I hope. Yes, Mike.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the great presentation. The question I had is how have your students found that? Students or the parents found that transition back into the traditional learning environment after they've been learning a particular way. How have they found that move?
That's one of the questions I get asked probably the most. And I guess I want to ask you a question, what ways do you mean? Just the academic side of it, or?
Well, just in general. So if for example, if you're very open to the inquiry process. They may not necessarily have that in the way that the learning or even the classes are structured, whether they block classes or if they have, you know, traditional 8 periods a day. It's a different environment that doesn't necessarily, it should encourage the inquiry, but it doesn't necessarily encourage that. So how have they found that struggle? Do they feel like they just have to bite their tongue all the time, can't necessarily ask questions, they have to make a list, meet with the teacher after? I mean, some of those possibly learning obstacles, if they see it as a learning obstacle once they transition out of this great learning environment.
Sure. I only ask that because I always think, in my head, I also think of like their social emotional side of things and like how that's a change, but you know, that would be considered an obstacle to them. But I guess I would say we don't actually have a ton of data yet because we kept kind of growing with the students that we had. But we do have a couple of students. We had a couple who left us after 5th grade to transition into middle school, the big middle school with everyone else. And I would say that in, you know, reflecting with their families, that transition was actually very smooth. Like academically, if they came in like as an average student, when they got tested, when they went back into the system, they were still at that same level. Do you know what I mean? So they didn't see these huge gains or these huge drops. So academically, that was the case. I think what the biggest thing that they leave our school with is confidence. And so they're able to advocate for themselves. They can go talk to the teachers afterwards. I think what often happens is they feel a little bit bored. So the families that we've had, they kind of they really start doing other things. You know, they're doing extracurriculars or they're getting involved in different things in the schools that they're at. But we just don't have a lot of data yet. As far as like my oldest, he would be a good one to see how he would do because he's probably one of the most vocal ones. So it would be interesting to see what his next chapter looks like. So.
Yeah, I have a question. Great presentation there. You know, obviously opening a school and having kids there's probably a lot of expenses. And so just like on your profit and loss and funding and, you know, what is a tuition for your school, how do you get all the money to be able to do this?
Well, we are a nonprofit, so without donations, it would be really tough because we don't have the full student base that we would like to have. But honestly, that's pretty much every private school. The cost to educate is more than their tuition is, and so every private school is constantly fundraising and looking for donors. And so we started out we only had about 11 students, and now up to 40. You know, we've grown over the past 5 years quite a bit. But we're still like, if we can get out of that 3rd Street location, I feel like this answer would be a lot different. But we're still, that's always an issue or a thought in our heads of like, okay, where can we find additional donors? What kind of grants could we write for? We don't get any state funding, so the public schools receive all of that. We get the tiniest amount of federal funding because every student's entitled to that, but it's very, very small. And so everything is done by tuition-based, is basically all tuition-based and donation-based, so.
Cool. Mary.
Yeah, thank you so much for presenting today. I have 2 questions. One is, what is your background? I know the 2 up on stage with you have teaching backgrounds, and I don't think that you really went into that. My second question is there a name for this model? Because it's not Montessori, although I can kind of see the influence. And are there other schools following this model? Is there a name for it? Are you kind of pioneering it? And maybe that does go into your background, maybe it doesn't.
Sure. Well, my background is in business. I got my degree in business, and I did a lot of like sales and marketing kind of things. But then I had kids, and I realized that I really like being around kids. I'm a natural teacher. Like talking to kids comes very easily to me, which is a huge strength, I think, in my new role. And so I think I would say that my business degree didn't necessarily help me start a business, but having that kind of practice with just talking with people and kind of presenting an idea that people could get excited about is sort of some of my background. As far as our model, it's not Montessori, but it's similar. That's one of the other questions I get because people are familiar with Montessori. And so Montessori is child-centered, just like we are, but we're inspired by a philosophy called the Reggio Emilia approach. It's not new. It was started after World War II in Reggio Emilia, Italy. The adults were actually taking bricks of rubble and rebuilding their community after the war. And we're looking at each other like, how do we prevent this from happening? You know, like, this is awful that we're having to reconstruct our schools and we've lost so much. And so they created this philosophy of education it's a social constructivism approach where we work together, we talk things out, we brainstorm together, we dialogue together. And so Reggio Emilia is not new, but it's kind of in some ways, I do think it's kind of cutting edge because we've forgotten that. We kind of put kids in desks and we say, you have eight classes, here's what you need to do for those classes, instead of like helping them figure out how to live together and be a community together. And that's really what Reggio is it's a community-based education. If you go there, they'll tell you you can't replicate what they do because you have to build it in your community. And so it's more of a community-minded type education. And there are schools doing this all over the country. We just happen to be the only one in North Dakota.
So for Megan and Alicia, maybe a little bit about your backgrounds too, and just tell us what a day is like teaching at the Innovation School.
Sure. Okay. I was a teacher at Stimley Middle School and an assistant principal there, and could see, I still love Stimley, but I could see a lot of the flaws of the system. And watching my own child go through it and start kindergarten, I knew that I was going to have to find a different path for my family. And so I started seeking out different readings, research, found Maggie. It was my dream to start my own school, and I joke that she stole it. So connected with her, and my kids started in 2018. I have 3 boys. They are all there with me, and my oldest will be in middle school this year, so it'll be a fun new challenge to teach him directly. And I love middle school. That is where my heart lies, and I have a philosophy of being in the community. So we take a lot of field trips, and it was a point of, I felt very proud when Wyatt shared during his capstone that he did some paintings and created the van for the Innovation School because he will remember going so many places, and that's what I'm glad that he has that memory.
And I am just starting this year teaching, speech language pathologist by trade. I found the Innovation School, it actually started when my daughter was probably 2. I was working at the elementary school where Maggie's kids had gone, and I kind of just followed the Innovation School, like, oh, this sounds good. And then it would have been March of 2020 or 19, what was it, COVID year? And all the schools were doing online learning, and my daughter would have been starting kindergarten the next year, and I was like, I want her to have like social experience at school, and I wanted something different that led to play and peer interaction, and so that's what brought me to bringing my daughter to the Innovation School, and now I just wanted to be a part of it, and glad that I could be on board as part of our staff.
Thank you. And I think we have one more question in the back. Yes.
Yeah, so as somebody that didn't do as well in high school and now with a 2-year-old, it's really exciting to see this in Bismarck. And just curious, you said you weren't at capacity now with 40 students. What does capacity look like for you guys? And then, do you have a goal of what you want it to look like in 5 years, or we never want it to exceed this number type of growth?
Yeah, I think right now at 40, our biggest class is actually our pre-K, kindergarten, and so we actually have about 14 in there, so the other numbers are smaller. So I would love for us to get up to 12 in each class, so we have 3 classes, so that gets us about 55. And then it would be amazing if we could offer another 4-year-old program, because there really is a need for preschool in Bismarck-Mandan. As far as growth, there's really good research out there to show that you lose that community feel once you get above 100, 120. And so I would love to see our school get to that piece, or that size, and then sort of stay there. Because, I mean, the idea of running a Friday meeting with that many people, things would have to change. You would have to have representatives and some different things like that. But that community feel, you still want to be able, everyone knows each other's names. Everyone is able to interact as a first grader all the way up. In a really safe way. And so I would love to see us grow, but I think that would be, in my mind, would be like the max where we would kind of cap it off. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for all the good questions. And I think we're going to lean on Kayla here to do the final question. Do you have the clicker?
Yes. Shall I click it?
I'll steal
Oh,
it.
sorry. I did. I went.
You don't need this, I know, Kayla, but just in case.
Oh, I'll bring it anyway. Thank you so much for coming. Last winter, one of their students, Bryn, reached out to me. She wanted to interview a writer. But she emailed me and we agreed to meet up downtown, and she bought me a coffee, and she was so prepared and had some really hard-hitting questions. So it was really cool. If I'd been her age and got to do, I would have been so jazzed. But so you're doing cool things with all kinds of cool people, but how can we as the Bismarck Mandan 1 Million Cups community help you succeed?
Do you guys want to take that? Yeah.
My answer would be to just talk about the Innovation School. So when you hear another parent at school saying it's just not working out for us, you could say, well, did you know that there's this other school option in town? That's, to me, how the word keeps going. And send kids to do shadow days. That's how we started. I sent both my boys, and they immediately thought they were going to go next week. And I was like, no, we're thinking about next year. So they'll love it. The kids will love it. And then kids really are able to talk about it too.
Do you have anything you want to share? I think too, just echoing what Megan said, just if you can help us spread the word that we're here and that you've heard really great things, or you've heard about it, or you have a little bit of an idea, and just really encourage people to reach out to us. And then just encourage people to have courage. I think if you're a business owner, people look at you and they think, oh, look at them, they're doing it. And since I started the school, I have had 4 female friends start businesses in the past 5 years. And I just think that's awesome that we can do something and people can look at it and be like, hey, maybe I can do that too. And so just keep doing what you're doing. And if you hear people that are looking, or maybe you think they would be a good fit, just send them our way. That'd be great.
Thank you. One more round of applause for our speakers today, please. And just stay. All right, so upcoming events. We got kind of an assignment for you. There's no such thing as a free cup of coffee. So maybe kind of along the same lines as what Maggie's saying about, spreading the word. And it's amazing the connections that we can make if you just think a little bit. And you might know somebody that, for example, might be a perfect fit for the Innovation School. Just reach out. It's so easy these days, right? Facebook, whatever. Reach out, and you can be a connector, and that's something that 1 Million Cups really tries hard to do. Along those lines, instead of just kind of flashing through the what's coming slides, I'd like to spend just a minute on the very next one every week, so you guys can think a little bit about who should be there. Who do I know that really shouldn't miss this? Because too often we hear, after a presentation, it's like, oh man, I know somebody that really should have seen that or should have been part of that. So we're trying to do everything we can to be proactive about that and say, all right, here's what's coming. Who do we know that should be there, so that they can learn from that or share their experiences, wherever the case may be. So next week is United Tribes Technical College is going to be here talking about the powwow. Personally, I'm really interested in this. I don't know that much about it. Through the Yonder stuff that we were looking at, anyone is invited. You don't have to be a Native American. There's no, you can just go. And it's been going on as long as I can remember, and I'm really curious. So if there's somebody that you know that might also share that curiosity, please share that with them. Get them here. And then after that is BB's Bath Bakery. So that's where Cafe Aroma used to be, right over here. I think that's going to be fun. We chatted with Becky recently, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And then on September 7th, we've got Almost Home Family Real Estate. And I just met and chatted with Kevin a little bit. I think it was at the Chamber EDC lunch on the patio the other day. Really energetic young man, and I can't wait to see what he's got for us too. So that's what we got coming up. So remember your assignment. Talk about these things. Get people here. And with that, if you or somebody you know might want to be on this stage and have this experience, I did this last time I emceed. I said, it's not so bad, right? And the speaker went, oh, it's horrible. He was kidding, but it wasn't. Okay, thank you, Maggie. All you need to do is go to 1millioncups.com/bizman. It's a super easy process. We walk you through it. We help you in any way that we can. So it's pretty low impact. Please do that. And with that, have a terrific week. Thank you. Well, thank you, guys. Great job. So great.